Hi, I'm Josie Lum. I've trained ponies on the Lawman Training Ranch, and this is a poem. It's one of my favorites. It's called The Walking Man. A sunny summer day it was, well open into Laramie, I overtook the walking man, reined up, not how. He'd been a rider once, I knew. He smiled, but scarce aware of me. He said, if you like me to, I'll tell my story now. To tell you that I'm crazy, that my wits have gone to glory. But you mustn't believe every western yarn you hear. But the one I'm going to tell you is exceptional. A story you've heard perhaps a dozen ways, a dozen times a year. So I whispered, while the shadow of my pony walked beside him, if good people go to heaven, do good horses go to hell? I swung one leg across the saddle horn, sideways, so I eyed him, for I've seen the phantom ponies loping around the big corral, and I've seen my pony Yuma. Yes, the horse who died to save me, come nicker at the golden bars while I stood down below her, calling, Yuma, Yuma, Yuma. And still I wonder why he gave me such a friend, and why I killed her. It was 20 years ago. You remember, it was lonely when we used to guard the cattle, when a man would ride the line for days and camp at night, alone, with nothing much to do, watch the sun raise up for battle, and not a soul to talk to, or what's worse, his own. So I taught my pony Yuma many tricks, for she was human, to rear, shake hands, nod, pick up anything I dropped, till she grew as interested and as gentle as a woman, just to have me praise and pet her. But one day the teaching stopped. 3 riders from the knock rode up, and I knew there'd be trouble. But I sat my pony easy and rolled a cigarette. We talked about the rodeo, and like a bursting bubble, the leader opened up the fire. I felt my arm grow wet. It was 3-1, but Yuma, like a rock, stood to the thunder, for she seemed to know my need. 2 empty saddles, when the one that tried to get me first spurred up close and swung up under. I saw the trail to heaven through the muzzle of his gun. I flinched. I played the coward. Hup, I called, and at my calling reared my pony. She took a shot. I leveled quick and twice, and I answered. And through the smoke I saw a twisted figure falling. I could feel my pony shiver. 20 years I paid the price for my life. Yes, hell in Texas leave the hoof prints in some faces. We riders of the range, each of us has played his part. 20 years, he whispered slowly. 20 years in many places, but I've never worn the print of Yuma's hoof prints from my heart. And I'm the walking man, forever. But I dream of mighty ranges, and the silent mountain meadows, and the glory of the stars. And I see the phantom ponies, and the dawn and sunset changes, and I hear my pony, Yuma, nicker just behind the golden bars. A sunny summer day it was. Well, open into Laramie, overtook the walking man, reined up, not how. He walked beside me for a while. He hardly was aware of me, but I think I understand him now, for I know his story now. That's by Henry Herbert Nibbs.
Hi, I'm Tanner Lawman. I live in Prineville, Oregon, and I help my mom start colts on her ranch. And so here's a poem that is one of my dad's favorites. It's by Brusky Scadden. It's called The Bronco Twister's Prayer. It was a little graveyard on the rolling foothill plains that was bleached by the sun in summer, swept by winter snows and rains. There was a little bunch of settlers gathered on that autumn day around a homemade lumber coffin with their last respects to pay. Weary men had wrung their living from that hard and arid land, and beside them stood their women, faded wives with toil-worn hands. But among us stood one figure. He was wiry, straight, and trim. All of us there knowed him. It was the Bronco Twister, Jim. Just a bunch of hardened muscle tempered with a savage grit. And he had the reputation of a man that never quit. He'd helped to build the coffin. He'd helped to dig the grave. And his instincts seemed to teach him how he really should behave. Well, we didn't have a preacher, and the crowd is mighty slim, just two women with weak voices, sing an old-time funeral hymn. Now that was all we had for service. And the wife, she's sobbing there, for her husband of a lifetime, laid away without a prayer. Then she looked at the Bronco Twister. She walked right up to him. She put one trembling arm around him and said, "Pray, please, won't you, Jim?" Well, you could see his figure straighten, and a look of quick surprise flashed across his swarthy features and his hard, daredevil eyes. He could handle any bronco, and he never dodged a fight. It was the first time anybody had ever seen his face turn white. But he took his big sombrero off his rough and shaggy head, and how I wish I could remember what that bronco peeler said. No, he wasn't educated on the range his youth was spent, but the maker of creation knew exactly what he meant. As he looked off towards the mountains where the drifting shadows played, and silence must have reigned in heaven when they heard the way Jim prayed. Years had passed since that small funeral in that lonely graveyard lot, but it gave us all a memory and a lot of food for thought. As we stood beside the coffin and the freshly broken sod with that reckless bronco breaker, talking heart to heart with God. When the prayer at last was over and the grave had all been filled, on his rough, half-broke pony, he rode off towards the hills. Yes, we stood there in amazement as we watched him ride away, for no words could ever thank him. There was nothing we could say. Since we gathered in that graveyard, it's been nearly 50 years, with their joys and with their sorrows, with their hopes and with their fears. But I hope when I am finished, and they lay me with the dead, that some old cowboy says a prayer over me, like that Bronco Twister said. Thank you.
The next one we're going to do is by S. Omar Barker, and it's Pert Near. Well, they called him Pert Near Perkins, and unless the boogard lied, he'd pert near done most everything that he'd ever tried. He'd pert near been a preacher. He'd pert near roped a bear. He'd met up with Comanches once and pert near lost his hair. He'd pert near wed this heiress who had money by the keg, and he'd pert near caught the measles, and he'd pert near broke his leg. He'd pert near been a trail boss, and according to his claim, he had pert near shot Bill Hickok, which had pert near won him fame. Well, he'd pert near rode some horses upon which no one else had stuck. In fact, this is the cowboy who pert near drowned the duck. Well, most of the boys on the lazy SB spread sort of took his talking with a grin and let him fight his head, but one named Tom McGinnis sort of told it to him tough.
You're working for an outfit now, well, pert near ain't enough. We tie our last ropes to the horn, and what we catch we hold. And pert near is one alibi we never do unfold. In fact, I'll tell you something, mister. No words I ever hear sound quite so plain damn useless as that little pair of pert near.
Well, that's how old Tom McGinnis laid it right out on the line, and like a heap of preaching talk, why, it sounded mighty fine. Till one day old Tom McGinnis was a-riding out alone. He lamed his horse and had to catch some neighbor nester's roan to ride back to the ranch on. And somewhere along the way, some nesters held him up, and there was hell to pay. Tom claimed he hadn't stole that horse, just borrowed it to ride. Them nesters hated cowboys, and they told him that he'd lied. They cussed him for a horse thief, and they caught him with the goods, so they set right out to hang him in a nearby patch of woods. They had poor old Tom surrounded with their guns all cocked to shoot. It looked like this old cowboy pert near heard his last owl hoot. They tied a rope around his neck and throwed it o'er a limb. Tom McGinnis pert near knowed this was the last of him. till a shot rang out from somewhere up the hill. Them nesters dropped that rope and ran like nesters often will when the bullets go to whizzing. And Tom's heart leapt with hope to see old Pert Near Perkins come a-riding that'll lope. I pert near got here just in time, when Perkins said, to see them feathers hanging. Tom's face turned kind of red.
You pert near did.
He pert near grinned.
They pert near had me strung. You are looking at a cowboy who has pert near just been hung. And also one who's changed his mind, for no words ever said sound quite as sweet as pert near when a man has pert near just been dead. This is one by Pat Richardson. Second thoughts. He was all propped up on pillows. You could tell he was in pain, 'cause there were hoses hooked to bottles, dripping slowly in his veins. I says, what would you do different if you'd done it all again? He ponders on the subject some. He says, that all depends. If the same thing was to happen and I knew it in advance, I'd have taken along a rifle and an extra pair of pants. I wouldn't have rode that gray horse, he said deep in thought. And in retrospect, I reckon I'd have shot that dog I brought. He's the cause of most of my problems, he says with an icy stare. 'Cause what the heck's he thinking about barking at that bear? His nostrils flared in anger. He was twitching in his cast. And any horse but that gray one. I need one that was fast. He knew that bear was back there. He chased us down the hill. I bailed off and ran right past him like he was standing still. And I wouldn't have climbed that oak tree if I'd have known at the time, but nobody ever told me that a grizzly bear could climb. And I doubt I'd spread his head so hard when he came at climbing close, because of all the things I'd done, I believe that ticked him off the most. But the main thing I'd do different, if just one I could pick, is I'd have stayed in the bunkhouse and pretended I was sick.
Well, Mr. Boomer Johnson, he's getting old in spots. But Steve don't expect no bad man to go wrestling pans and pots. But he killed his share of fellers, but his draw was getting slow. So he give up punching cattle and he started punching dough. Well, our foreman up and hired him, thinking aged rode him tame, but a snake don't get no sweeter by the changing of his name. Still, old Boomer knowed his business and he cooked to make you smile, but I'll say he rustled fodder in the most peculiar style. He didn't use no matches, left them laying on the shelf. Some kerosene and cussing in the kindling lit itself. And I'll tell you something, mister, it'd give your heart a jolt to watch him stir frijoles with the muzzle of his Colt. Now killing folks and cooking ain't so very far apart. So that's why I guess a Boomer kept to practicing his art. With the front side of his pistol, he could cut a pie lid slick, and he'd crimp her with the muzzles to make the edges stick. And well, he built his donuts solid, but it sure would curl your hair to watch him plug them donuts as he tossed them in the air, while he would bore a hole plumb center every time his pistol spoke, till the can was full of donuts and the shack was full of smoke. Well, we's all getting jumpy, but he couldn't understand why his shooting made us nervous when his cooking was so grand, so he kept right on performing, and it weren't no big surprise when he took to marking tombstones on the covers of his pies. They didn't taste no better. They didn't taste much worse, but sitting at his table was like riding in a hearse. You didn't do no talking, and you took just what you got, and you ate till you was tired just to keep from getting shot. Well, at breakfast one fine morning, I was feeling mighty low when old Boomer passed them donuts, and I told him I didn't know. All I take this trip is coffee. Man, my stomach, it's a wreck. Well, you could see the itch for killing swell the waters on his neck. He picked him up some donuts and he strung them on his gun. He stuck her in my gizzard and he said, "You're taking one." Well, he was set to start a graveyard, but this time he was mistook. Me not wanting any donuts, I just up and whipped the cook. Well, did the fire? Listen, fellas, there was nothing left to fire. Just a row of smiling cowboys with another cook to hire. And if he's joined another outfit and he's cooking what I mean, well, it's where there ain't no matches. And they don't need kerosene.
Good job, guys.
What they called him Pert Near Perkins for, unless the booger lied, he'd pert near done most everything that he'd ever tried. He'd pert near been a preacher, and he'd pert near roped a bear, He'd met up with Comanches once and pert near lost his hair. He'd pert near wet the Sarahs, who had money by the keg. He'd pert near cut the measles, then he'd pert near broke his leg. And according to his claim, he had pert near shot Bill Hickok, which had pert near won him fame. Pert near rode some horses, upon which no one else had stuck. In fact, this is the cowboy who pert near drowned the duck. Now most of the boys in the lazy Gatsby spread sort of took his talking with a grin and let him fight his head, but one named Tom McGinnis sort of told it to him tough.
You're working for an outfit now where pert near ain't enough. We tie our last ropes to the horn, and what we catch we hold, and pert near is one alibi we never do unfold. In fact, I'll tell you something, mister, no words I ever hear sound quite so plain damn useless as that little pair of pert near.
Well, that's how Tom McGinnis laid it right out on the line like a heap of preaching talk. Why, it sounded mighty fine. Till one day old Tom McGinnis was a riding out alone. He'd lamed his horse and had to catch some neighbor Nestor's roan to ride back to the ranch on. And somewhere along the way, some nesters held him up, and there was hell to pay. Tom claimed he hadn't stole that horse, just borrowed it to ride. The nesters hated cowboys, and they told him that he lied. They cussed him for a horse thief, and they caught him with the goods, and they set right out to hang him in a nearby patch of woods. They had poor old Tom surrounded, with their guns all cocked to shoot. Looked like this old cowboy had pert near heard his last owl hoot. They tied a rope around his neck, and through all them, Tom McGinnis pert near knowed this was the last of him. Till a shot rang out from somewhere up the hill. Them nesters dropped that rope and ran like nesters often will when the bullets go to whizzing. Tom's heart leapt with hope to see old pert near Perkins come riding out a lope. Looks like our pert near got here just in time, old Perkins said, to see them fellers hanging. Tom's face turned kind of red.
You pert near did.
He pert near grinned.
They pert near had me strung. You were looking at a cowboy who has pert near just been hung, and also one who's changed his mind for no words ever said sound quite so sweet as pert near when a man has pert near just been dead. That's Omar Barker. Thank you.